Three major events occurred today that could reshape the course of this war. Not merely updates or developments, but three distinct incidents, each historic on its own. All of them unfolded within the same morning while much of America was still asleep. First, Iran officially introduced its new supreme leader on state television. At the same time, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, pledged complete loyalty, and Hezbollah shared his portrait on Telegram within minutes. The Islamic Republic now has a new ruler, Mojtaba Khamenei. He is the son of the leader the United States killed. President Trump referred to him as a lightweight earlier today, saying he would not remain in power long. Israel also stated that the moment his name was announced, he became a target. Second, oil prices surged past $100 per barrel overnight, then climbed to $109 and later to $113. Dow futures plunged 1,000 points before sunrise. Gasoline prices have increased by 47 cents compared to just a week ago, according to the analyst at GasBuddy, who monitors gas prices at stations across the United States. The probability of gasoline reaching $4 per gallon within the next 30 days is now estimated at 80%. Third, a seventh American soldier has died. He passed away in Saudi Arabia due to wounds sustained on March 1st. His identity is currently being withheld until his family is notified. All 7 casualties were Army soldiers killed in the opening phase of a war that Congress never formally authorized. 3 major stories in a single morning. This marks day 10 of the conflict. Let's examine each one in detail. We begin with Mojtaba Khamenei because his appointment may determine how this war ultimately concludes or whether it ends at all. On Monday, Iran named Mojtaba Khamenei as the successor to his father, Ali Khamenei, as supreme leader. The announcement suggests that hardline leadership remains firmly in control as the week-old U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran pushes oil prices above $100 per barrel. According to Iranian state media and reports from Fars, Tasnim, and ISNA news agencies, a statement from the Assembly of Experts confirmed that Mojtaba Khamenei was chosen as the Islamic Republic's third supreme leader. This is not speculation or an unverified leak. It has been confirmed by state television, by multiple Iranian news agencies, and by an official statement from the Assembly of Experts itself. The IRGC immediately declared its readiness to fully obey and sacrifice in carrying out the orders of the new supreme leader. It also vowed to continue fighting the United States and Israel until Iran achieves victory. Within hours of the announcement, the most powerful military institution in Iran had pledged total loyalty to Mojtaba Khamenei. That does not resemble a collapsing regime. It resembles one that has regrouped and rearmed. Understanding who this man is crucial, especially because Trump's description of him as a lightweight may represent one of the most serious misjudgments of a foreign leader in recent American history. Mojtaba Khamenei is the second son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed on the first day of the war. His mother, wife, and one of his sisters were also killed in the same strike that took his father's life. Reports indicate that Mojtaba was not present during the attack and survived the intense bombing campaign. His father is dead. His mother is dead. His wife is dead. His sister is dead. And he has just accepted leadership of the nation responsible for those losses. Mojtaba Khamenei's influence has largely stemmed from his closeness to power rather than his religious standing. However, his strong connections with the Revolutionary Guard and Iran's security establishment suggest that the institutions guiding Iran's wartime strategy will remain highly influential under his leadership. His selection indicates that Iran's ruling elite opted for continuity and stability rather than experimentation during a moment of extreme national pressure. His rise to power also signals that hardline factions within Iran's leadership still hold significant influence and that the government has little interest in entering negotiations in the near future. As Al Jazeera reported, Iran shows little desire to agree to a deal or negotiations in the short term. Trump demanded unconditional surrender. Iran responded by appointing perhaps the most uncompromising successor available, the man whose family was killed in the opening strikes, the individual with the closest ties to the IRGC, someone who has never delivered a public speech and has shown no inclination to back down throughout his life. Interestingly, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei himself reportedly opposed the idea of his son taking power and never allowed the issue to be discussed while he was alive. One member of the Assembly of Experts revealed that even the announcement of Mojtaba's leadership was delayed due to security concerns that he might be targeted by Israel or the United States. Despite the late leader's wishes, the IRGC supported Mojtaba and ultimately secured his appointment. The founder of the Islamic Republic had explicitly said he did not want his son to lead it, yet the revolution has effectively transitioned into a hereditary leadership system against his expressed intentions. Trump responded by posting on Truth Social and speaking with ABC News. In those remarks, he claimed the new leader would not remain in power long without approval from the United States. He said he wanted to be involved in the selection process and stated that Kham's son was unacceptable to him. Trump has previously asserted that any Iranian supreme leader appointed without U.S. approval would not remain in power for long. He told ABC News that the new leader would need American approval and that without it, he would not last. His reasoning, he said, was to prevent the United States from having to revisit the issue every decade. In effect, the U.S. president is demanding a role in approving Iran's supreme leader. Iran's response was to appoint the exact individual Trump declared unacceptable. This situation is not a negotiation. It is two governments operating on entirely different assumptions while simultaneously bombing each other. Now consider the oil situation, which directly affects Americans regardless of their distance from the Middle East. Oil prices surpassed $100 per barrel for the first time in more than 3.5 years as the war with Iran disrupted production and shipping across the region. Brent crude reopened at $117.97 per barrel, up 16.5% from Friday's close. West Texas Intermediate rose to about $116.22 per barrel, a 16.9% increase. U.S. oil futures surged 24.6% to $113.30 per barrel. Dow Jones futures dropped by 1,001 points, or 2.13%. S&P 500 futures declined 2.01%, while Nasdaq futures fell 2.31%. Asian markets also experienced significant losses. Japan's Nikkei index dropped more than 7% in early trading. South Korea's Kospi fell over 8%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng declined nearly 3%. These are not minor fluctuations associated with wartime uncertainty. This is the global economy beginning to reflect a scenario that financial markets had largely ignored during the first 9 days of the conflict. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively shut down. The conflict has already disrupted roughly 1/5 of the global supply of crude oil and natural gas. Iran has targeted ships in the strait and attacked energy infrastructure across the region. As a result, major oil producers, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iraq, and Kuwait, have halted shipments totaling roughly 140 million barrels, equivalent to about 1.4 days of global oil demand. In just 1 week, 140 million barrels of supply have been removed from the market. Prices are responding accordingly. The average price of gasoline in the United States has climbed to $3.45 per gallon, 16% higher than the previous week, according to AIA. If energy prices remain elevated, the rising cost of living could intensify economic pressure on American households and create political challenges for Trump and Republican lawmakers ahead of the midterm elections later this year. Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy, stated that the probability of gasoline reaching $4 per gallon within the next month now stands at 80%. That estimate comes from the company that tracks virtually every gas station in the United States. Trump addressed the oil situation by stating on Truth Social that higher oil prices represent a small price to pay for global security and peace. He argued that only fools would think otherwise. However, Americans paying $4 per gallon at gas stations are not merely observers, they are voters. And the midterm elections are only 8 months away. Analysts warned that oil could reach $150 per barrel by the end of March if shipping through the Strait of Hormuz does not resume. Nothing in Iran's latest announcement suggests the strait will reopen soon. Finally, consider the 7th American soldier whose death has received less attention amid the leadership announcement and market turmoil. The U.S. military confirmed that a service member died after being injured during an attack in Saudi Arabia last week. This brings the number of American troops killed in the Iran conflict to 7. U.S. Central Command stated that the soldier was severely wounded during an attack on American forces in Saudi Arabia on March 1st. The name will be released 24 hours after the family has been notified. All 7 were Army personnel killed during the initial days of a war that began on February 28th. Trump told ABC News that meeting with the families of the 6 previously killed soldiers did not cause him to reconsider the war. According to him, the parents asked him to win the war in honor of their children. When asked whether he expected to attend more dignified transfers of fallen troops, he responded that he was sure he would. That means the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military expects additional American casualties while the conflict continues. Now consider the broader picture on day 10 of the war. A new supreme leader in Tehran who lost his entire family in the initial strikes and has pledged to keep fighting. An IRGC promising full loyalty while continuing missile attacks. Oil prices at $113 per barrel. Dow futures plunging more than 1,000 points. Gasoline potentially reaching $4 per gallon within a month. 7 American soldiers dead. Asian stock markets falling sharply. And the U.S. president describing Iran's new leader as a lightweight who will not remain in power. Mojtaba Khamenei is widely viewed as a supporter of Iran's hardline theocratic system and is expected to maintain resistance against the regime change sought by the United States and Israel. Early reports indicate he has never delivered a public speech, has shown no interest in compromise, grew up within Iran's most hardline institutions, watched his father rule the country for 36 years, and has just witnessed the deaths of nearly everyone closest to him. Trump is demanding unconditional surrender from that individual, and that individual has pledged to fight until victory. This raises a crucial question for the coming weeks. Oil is currently at $113 per barrel and could reach $150 by the end of March. Midterm elections are 8 months away. At what point might the economic consequences of this conflict force political leaders in Washington to reconsider their strategy? When does $4 gasoline become $5 gasoline? And when does that shift from an economic problem into a full political crisis that rivals the war itself? That is the pressure Iran may be relying on. When the IRGC claimed it could sustain the conflict for 6 months, it may not have been referring only to military endurance. It may have been calculating whether the American economy and political system can tolerate the cost of a prolonged conflict. Markets open today with oil at $113. By the close of trading, it will become clearer whether the downturn continues or stabilizes. When Mojtaba Khamenei delivers his first public statement as supreme leader, analysts will examine every word. And when the name of the 7th American soldier is released, it will be remembered with the respect it deserves.